Hey, um, so I wanted to show, hi everybody. I wanted to show them going to the house real quick before it starts. Here, here we go. The damage on the car is really weird.
Sorry, Zip.
Look at that. They obviously have the tail light out.
Yes.
It's a part two. Like there's damages that look kind of confusing. Like there's damages. See, oh, hold on. This is where the glass was supposed to be. The damage here. I don't know if that was before. And I don't know why they parked it there. Yeah, good one. See, why did they park it there, I wonder? The shoe was found in this area. The shoe was found right about there. It's a weird angle. Or over here. This area. And so the flagpole is here. They said anywhere from 8 to 20 feet. She would have been parked up here. But it seems to me when she hit him, his shoe came off at the fire hydrant and he landed over here. Like, and there were bushes here before. Yeah, I know. I don't know why they didn't put the car where she was the last seen, you know? Weird. I don't know what that was, the camera guy. I lost it. And I don't know, I guess that's law and crime reporter. Maybe had a martini. Okay, guys. So I love those two. You have them in check. Oh my god. Anyway, they were starting back up, I believe.
All right. Why don't we get the lieutenant back up here? Thank you.
Hey, Bartman. Yes, good afternoon. Can y'all see court?
Sir, I remind you, you're still under oath.
Okay.
I missed the first part of this.
Go right ahead, Mr. Lally.
Mr. Larry. Okay, he's a lieutenant,
So Lieutenant Woodbury.
fire department, I believe.
Turning attention back to the treatment of Mr. O'Keefe in the back of the ambulance, right?
Yes.
With respect to that, you testified that you don't recall sort of specifically anything as far as clothing for Mr. O'Keefe, is that correct?
I was not paying attention to the clothing.
And so to that point, what were you paying attention to at that time?
Primarily, the big issue was doing the CCR, then just CPR. We're trying to resuscitate the person as best we can. We know with the hypothermic patient, it's very difficult. It's a longer treatment protocol than a typical cardiac arrest because we have to do the CPR for an extended period of time. We have to get the patient warmed up. So the clothing is just quickly removed versus examined or looked at. And the focus was on getting compressions done. Someone was trying to intubate, getting a line started. So that's what we're mainly focused on.
As far as treatment is concerned, what, if any, sort of interplay or intersection is there between a cardiac arrest and a hypothermic patient?
When someone's hypothermic and in a cardiac arrest, we can't declare them dead or passed on until they've been warmed up. A lot of times with hypothermic patients, they can appear to be dead when they're still actually alive. So there has been instances where people have woken up in morgues that were hypothermic when their body warmed up a little bit. So we have to be very cautious, very careful about, treating them as much as we can, as careful as we can. We can't shake them too much, can't move them too much. So it's getting the blood circulating and then starting ventilating after a few minutes.
Back to the CCR, the chest compression that we're talking about. What, if any, sort of, based on your training and experience, what, if any, sort of protocols are, well, let me ask you this. Were you doing chest compressions throughout the entirety of this interaction with the patient?
No, chest compressions, most people do them about 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, it's very tiring to do chest compressions, so we swap off every few minutes. So a different person will come in and do the compressions. They'll do it for a little while, go into a different task. Someone else will come in and do compressions.
Is that sort of the protocol that you followed in this instance?
Yes. Yes, we were rotating the person doing compressions. And
the ambulance at some point leaves the scene and goes to a hospital, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know what hospital, Mr.
Good Samaritan Medical Center.
If you could just wait till.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Good Samaritan Medical Center.
And did you go along for that ambulance ride?
No, I did not.
Where did you go?
So as the lieutenant on the engine, I stay with the engine. I detailed my 2 other engine personnel to the ambulance. So they went with the 2 engine personnel, the 2 regular people on the ambulance, as well as an additional person. Timmy Nuttall was the extra person for that one.
And so you take the engine and go with it?
I went back to the station.
And at some point shortly after that, are you called back to the roadway of Fairview Road?
Yes.
And same general area of Fairview Road?
Yes, same address.
And how is it that you get from the station back to Fairview?
So we had struck a box to cover the personnel that we had detailed. That means we send out a page looking for additional people to come in. We had Sam Pock come in. So he was my engine driver. And I was in the lieutenant's seat. We responded back in engine 4.
And the ambulance that had been there on Fairview Road with you previously was at Good Samaritan?
Yes. Right? Yeah, a call like that takes an extended period of time, even at the hospital, to assist them there. So we had to get an ambulance from Station 2.
And if you know, who was on that ambulance from Station 2?
That was Jason Becker and Dan Whitley.
Now, with reference to this particular call, what, if anything, was this secondary dispatch with regard to?
So this call was for a Section 12, which is someone in having a psychological issue.
And do you know who that Section 12 was in regard to?
Yeah, this was for Karen Reed.
And at some point, you go back to the scene along with the engine and the second ambulance from Station 2?
Yeah, so the engine got there first. The ambulance coming from another station, so it was a couple extra minutes before they got there.
And when you arrived, who, if anyone else, is sort of on scene on Fairview Road?
The police were still on scene. They had never left. So initially it was me, Sam Pock, and the police. So I went up to try to get the backstory of why we're doing a Section 12 and what was going on.
And the ambulance that And at some point, well, when you first arrived, without regard to what was said to you, but who, if anyone, do you speak with to sort of try to gain this information or backstory?
When I got onto the scene, I talked to the police that was there.
Who'd you talk to, sir? The police officer who was
Police
there?
officer, yes. Sorry.
And do you recall specifically who that police officer was?
I really did not pay attention to the individual officer.
And at some point, do you have a conversation, or what, if any, conversations do you have with the patient, in this case, the defendant history?
So it was when we identified Karen Reed as the patient, the ambulance arrived shortly after. We started talking to her and trying to get her into the ambulance to talk to her further.
And just to be clear for the records, when you say Miss Reed, you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes, she's right over there.
That's a record of reflect identification of the defendant by the witness?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with respect to the defendant, Miss Reed, where is she sort of when you first make contact with her on scene when you come back?
In the general vicinity of where the police cars are.
And what is sort of the purpose of this initial conversation that you're having with Ms. Reed?
For Section 12, that's when someone's made threats to them, harm themselves or others. So I just had to judge her mental ability at the time and if she was a threat to us and how much of a threat she was to herself. So just a quick evaluation, see how her behavior was.
And what, if any, observations did you make of her during your quick conversation?
She appeared very distraught, very upset. Initially just trying to explain the situation to her about going to the hospital with the Section 12, and she was resistant to that.
And so when you say she was resistant to that, what if anything, did she say or do to?
She did not want to go.
Hold on. You cannot talk over each other, the objection's overruled.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So what was the question again, please? Yeah.
So what, if anything, when you say she was resistant, what, if anything, did she communicate to you, or observations did you make in regard to that?
She did not want to go to the hospital, and she didn't think she needed any assistance.
And what, if anything, are you sort of, you mentioned you were explaining sort of the process to her, what, if anything, are you saying in that explanation?
Well, once a Section 12 gets written, it's written by the police. Once it's written, we are required to transport to the hospital. Section 12 means that they believe you're a threat to yourself or others. So you have to get evaluated at the hospital by the hospital staff there to see how mentally stable you are.
Now, at this time of this conversation, what, if anything, did you know as far as the relationship between Ms. Reed and the prior patient?
I don't know what you're saying.
I knew they had a relationship. I wasn't sure if they were married or engaged or what their status was, but I knew she was did have a strong relationship with him.
And in reference to Mr. O'Keefe, during your conversation with Ms. Reed, what, if anything, was she asking or saying in reference to Mr. O'Keefe?
She kept repeating, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" She seemed very concerned about that. We're trying to explain to her that we cannot declare him dead. He's being evaluated. He's being treated. They're trying to treat him the best they can.
And as far as when she's stating these things to you, is this, as far as the sort of tonality of her voice while she's stating these things, can you describe that?
She was very up and down. It was a repetitive conversation with her. She's obviously experiencing a lot.
1 second. What were you trying to say? I didn't get it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to.
That's okay.
Pretty much the same photos that the defense tried to show of like the party and everything on the beach was released by Turtle Boy like 7 months ago, and then again last night. So basically, their big gotcha moment was basically probably got screwed over because Turtle Boy released the photos before, and she probably found out about the photos too. Like she probably was more prepared for those photos. Because apparently he broke, I think, a ruling 14 or something like that, which is supposed to be, you're supposed to reveal evidence before the trial, and his excuse was that it was for impeachment purposes, and he might be correct. I don't know. That'll be an argument over another time. I'm not aware.
Baker said that the judge ruled correctly, so I don't know.
Yeah, so basically the problem is that if he would have had that gotcha moment, he could have had her shaken up a bit. But because it was released on social media, everyone got to see it. And
Yeah.
it destroyed his so it's another situation where Turtle Boy has fucked over the defense.
Yeah.
I just
And
want to
then-
say.
Yeah. That video I did this morning was old, I found out.
Was it?
You know,
Oh,
yeah. That's what
okay.
someone told me.
Oh, okay.
Different emotions. Just her emotional state was all over the place.
And as far as this sort of second time that you're on scene, about how long period of time are we talking?
That was about between 15 and 20 minutes.
And as far as your conversation with Ms. Reed, where did she go? Did you stay with her sort of the entire time that she was on scene that second time? Or?
Because she was resistant, we're trying to get her to voluntarily go. If someone voluntarily goes, even with the section written, they're released a lot quicker. So we're trying to convince her to go, be willing to go with us versus being forced. If at some point we have to actually force her to go against her will, then it's going to be a much longer hospital stay. So our main goal with staying on the scene so long was to try to get her willingly to go. Just makes her experience much better.
And just to be clear, when you say we, who specifically are you?
It was me, Dan Whitley, Jason Becker were the ones talking to her in the back of the ambulance.
So it wasn't good.
Yeah.
When you clear, or when you leave the scene, where is Ms. Reed at that?
So the ambulance transported her to the Good Samaritan. We also detailed Sam Park as the driver.
So the gentleman who had driven, or the firefighter that had driven you in the engines of the scene that
Yep.
drives the ambulance away.
Yes,
Would
correct.
you say his name again, please?
Sam Park.
Same what?
Sam Park.
Spell it, please. Last name.
POCH is the last
Oh,
name.
okay. Thank you.
Oh, I thought it was Mark.
Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Okay. Ready?
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Oh, boy.
Mr. Woodbury, you and I have never met or spoken, correct?
No.
I know you had said you were nervous, so I'm going to try and make
Okay,
this fairly brief,
thank you.
sir. I just have a couple of areas that I'd like to go
Okay.
through with.
Tim,
So with
who is that guy?
I have no clue. I think he was probably one of the people that took her when she said that she wanted to unalive herself.
I thought he was he not he puts up the exhibits or whatever, maybe?
Who? This guy? The guy you're pointing to?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's probably the technical guy that basically sets up the exhibits, because the guy with the woman with the microphone over her mouth, that's the court reporter. Like, there's two different types of court reporting. There's one where you type it, and then there's another where you just repeat everything that's being said into a mic and what people are saying. And that's why she's telling them not to speak at the same time, because when they speak at the same time, it messes up the transcript. It messes up the record, because they can't write two people talking at the same time.
Right.
So, but I think that's basically, he's just basically bringing up the exhibits and handling the technical side of all this, because it's pretty technical so far. Like, there's a lot of exhibits, a lot of videos and stuff like that. So, and lawyers are not great with technology. Some of them can't even figure out how to like send Zoom exhibits. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
your interaction with Karen Reed and what you actually heard from her mouth. That's sort of where I want to concentrate, as opposed to anything that anybody else may have said to you about what they believe she might have said. Okay.
Okay.
And it seems to me that your main interaction with her was not when the initial call came in to respond to a man who was unresponsive in the snow. It was after you went back to the station in the engine and then came back to the scene for the purposes of the Section 12 that you described. Would that be fair to say?
Correct.
And when you came back to the scene for the Section 12, it's also fair to say that the Section 12 issue was your focus, correct?
Correct.
You had an order in hand, correct?
The police had it and they gave it to us when we got there.
Right. Okay. So you got an order in hand once you got there.
Correct.
Which is what you expected to happen. Correct?
Yes.
And your focus at that point is, okay, and I don't want to be too flip, but we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Is that a fair characterization?
That is one way to put it.
And you wanted to do it the easy way.
Yes, correct.
And you wanted to persuade Karen Reed that she should want to do it the easy way, correct?
Yes.
And after some conversation back and forth where she was initially resistant, she eventually agreed, yes, I'll do, not to put words in your mouth or hers, but to the effect of, yes, we'll do this the easy way, correct?
Did get her to agree to transport.
And with regard to her state of mind, I believe you had testified that she appeared to be very distraught.
Yes, correct.
Going through a lot of emotions.
Yes.
Grief-stricken.
Oh, that's one of them, yes.
Hysterical at times.
Yes.
Raising her voice at times.
Yes.
Crying at times.
I didn't see any actual tears, but
that type
of emotional display.
And so in terms of the only commentary that you heard with regard to her feelings or questions regarding John O'Keefe, it was the statements that you heard repetitively over and over and over again, is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead? Is he dead?
That was some of the things she was saying, yes.
Your Honor, may we approach sidebar briefly?
Okay. The defense has said that, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim,
Yeah.
that Officer Good, before it was like at 6:30, was already calling in a Section 12 on Karen. Like it was a planned thing, not going by how she was acting, but it was like they were going to get her back because she was leaving. She was so worried about John, she was leaving.
Yeah, I don't know. Everything's a part of the conspiracy, you know.
Yeah.
Like a 11-year-old Facebook post with 25 other people on a beach shows that you will cover up a murder for your, you know, one of your Facebook friends and person you talk to randomly.
And
once in a
keep in
while.
mind, all of these people would lose their pension, everything.
Oh, they already committed. Like if they would have went on the stand, if they're lying, they committed perjury. So
Yeah.
not only that, they could be spending like 10 years in jail on top of that. So
Right.
it's like you got all these people who generally are good people. They're not like terrible bad people. They're literally the, you know, EMTs, police officers. I
Didn't
haven't heard.
work 2 hours ahead of time.
Yeah, and they're trying to imply that because they're all corrupt and they're working with the
Right.
Alberts to cover it up. And it's like, I don't know what this whole thing. I mean, Karen Reed even said that she said, did I hit him? She said that the only difference between what they're stating
Yeah.
as their record is the did,
Yeah.
and it being a question mark.
Right.
And it's like you're trying to imply some sort of conspiracy when you could just simply say, well, is it possible that during all this hectic situation that you kind of misheard something and kind of lay the foundation here? Trying to imply relationships with the Albert and all that stuff with that
Wouldn't have
last
made
scene.
any
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, you would have been better off just, in my opinion, implying some sort of like they were just hectic and they misheard one word, which is very possible. You can easily create doubt in the jury's mind, especially when you basically like ask questions and details and see how they're kind of getting certain things wrong in the transcript and stuff like here. But unfortunately, they're going with this conspiracy route, and I think that's a terrible idea. I mean,
they're really trying.
yeah, it's like the problem is you're making this conspiracy bigger and bigger and bigger, and you don't need to make it that big. Like,
How would they possibly do that without? I mean, this was all within an hour.
yeah, like they should have just went. They should have just went with the fact that the EMTs might have not heard her complete statement, and that's it. And then that's all. That's it, man. And you move on, and you show like the cops didn't really do a great job with the reports, and you move on. And
Yeah, the one guy, the EMT that said, well, I told the people at the hospital. I mean, it's possible that I've been to the hospital and they're like, this happened, we saw this, you know, like I don't know how they would remember everything they said.
Yeah, and I just think it's just a very foolish endeavor, to be honest with you. And I think the defense flops today with their witness. With what trying to do a cross, I think like they really flopped with her.
Well, they're just trying to create doubt. I think that's all they can do, you know.
Which is like, this is all just too many extra steps. It's like all you need to do is just say, well, she misheard my client say did. Yeah, that's all. And you can easily make a jury believe that during a hectic situation that people just didn't hear.
A lot of other stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other stuff can be pretty easily explained away. Like, it's my fault can be like self-reflective guilt of dropping them off at the house.
But before they even looked for him, she said, Carrie, I think he's dead. Maybe a snowplow hit him.
That could even be explained away with, you know, some people being like worried, like if someone's not home, that they think they're not the worst possible thought. Is he dead? Those things could be easily explained away. But the whole thing is, I hit him is not really easily explained away. Even when you ask it in the form of even if you ask it in the form of a question, it still says, okay, so what led you to believe that you might have hit him? And that's the problem.
Why didn't you call their house? Why didn't you go knock on their door?
Yeah, like what made you believe that you hit someone? And that raises that's like, okay, either way, that line is very bad.
Dad, she thought she hit something.
She said it on Dateline.
Yeah, I thought so.
She said on Nightline, actually, that same line. I said, did I hit him? Preceded with a did. proceeded with a did, then with a question mark.
Yeah, and then proceeded with a question mark.
Yeah, like, come on. She said it.
I know.
She 100% said it. But you can go.
Big sidebar. Then he says, you can hear everything, even the sidebar when you're in this room. He looks so sad or sick.
I mean, his son died and he's sitting right across from the murderer or the accused.
Yeah, and the
murderer.
daughter. They had a daughter that died too.
And did you see the father of Karen Reed smiling when they were voir diring? Like, he was like grinning. It was weird.
Like a game. They act like it's a game.
Yeah, so.
Like she's winning, you know?
Yeah, and then she's like smirking while staring down the witness. I was like, bro, this lady's a wackadoo.
Yeah.
Like,
they didn't know her all that long. It was like a year and 9 months.
Yeah, well, good reason now. I mean, this is like, I've never seen a man grin like the father of like a person being accused grinning while at a murder trial. I was like sitting there, I saw the father smiling. I was like, what's going on here? Are we in Delulu land or something? This is crazy.
What are they doing?
I think they are, I don't know.
They've already had lunch and
well, there's probably some sort of objections that could be raised with certain questioning that's being worked out.
Yeah, maybe the jury went out and is coming back.
Yeah.
You know, Turtle Boy will have pictures of the jury, or he's going to know who they are, because it wouldn't be hard out there.
Well, if he does that, he's going to destroy. Like, listen, like the prosecution has an unlimited budget, like basically, while the defense has a limited budget, and it gets harder and harder to raise money. And if he does that, there might be a mistrial if he starts going after jury members. And I think that's a very bad idea. I think you just leave it as it is and see what happens.
Now, if they had a mistrial now, does double jeopardy, it wouldn't attach?
No, it wouldn't attach at all. He could bring it up again. And you know what the problem is? She spent over $500,000 on this defense so far. And she's going to spend more money now. I mean, she was spending $3,000 on a PR person a month.
Do we know that for sure?
That's what I've heard. Let's just say it's a rumor. I could probably figure out.
I mean, it's obvious. Hold on.
No problem. Just mute yourself in case.
I've got to mute for a second.
Okay, no problem. Anywho, I can't get enough. It's an interesting case, honestly. But I think like a lot of people are not realizing the photos are not in. Basically, the Commonwealth has done a good cleanup where he says, listen, how many years ago was that photo? 10 or so more years ago. How many freaking Facebook friends you got? 500. Have you ever gone to a person that you knew from high school's place as an EMT? Yes. I mean, like, it's not shocking that you know someone. And I just think it flopped. I think like the whole cross flopped completely.
Which one, on the woman? I mean,
on the EMT person, it completely flopped. I felt like it was, and also he kind of lost his edge because his first cross, when the jury wasn't in there, she was a little bit more shaken up. She could have been it would have been interesting for the jury to see. But then basically, because he wanted to do that whole surprise picture thing, the jury didn't get to see her initial reaction, and she was more prepared for the second cross. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it was a bad decision to try to throw those photos in. And I think it worked against them. I think it really did. And I've seen people trying to show the photos. I figure like, and it's like a really cropped in photo with like 25 people in it. I don't know about you, but I've gone to, parties and I don't know every single person. And she stated that she didn't talk to this person for years. Right. And I was expecting Jackson to be like, when he was leading up to those questions, I was expecting Jackson to have that gotcha moment where he says, I have this Facebook post that you talked to Kate Albert in 2021,
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to remember.
But she never did. But he never did. There was no gotcha. The big gotcha was a photo from 11 years ago.
Right.
That was like, what? Is this for real? The only thing I didn't like was that the girl couldn't remember where and when the pics were taken. That's strange to me. I mean, are you going to remember what beach you went to 11 years ago while you were in high school?
I mean, and people are drinking, putting their arms around you, people taking pictures. I mean, I don't think it's
Yeah, and
like,
plus the problem is she answered the question correctly, because if you sit through witnesses, they show you the photo and you says, "Do you know where this location's taken?" Even if you know where the location is taken, if it doesn't show you in the photo, usually you don't want to answer that you're volunteering information. You never want to volunteer information. You need to answer the question. That is the
right,
problem. That's what you're supposed to do as a witness. You're not supposed to volunteer information and give the lawyer more stuff to come at you with. So if like a witness, also I believe the lawyer was fucking up and he was asking in double negative, like, is this true? And she said no. He should have said, or something like that. And like, is it true? Like he was not asking the question correctly. Should have been like a yes, by the way.
do you remember the girl in the Zimmerman trial, the witness? What was her name?
I don't know.
She was supposed to be the girlfriend. This woman was like the main. Well, she was yeah, she's like 18, 19.
Okay. Yeah.
She was like the main witness, and she did not have a lawyer.
Yeah.
Gentile, Rachel.
Okay.
Gentile. I was like, hey, like, how would she not have a lawyer?
Yeah, I've heard Jen McCabe has a lawyer.
Who? Jen? Yeah,
She is a lawyer. She's been prepared. I guarantee you she's going to be prepared.
They're not going to get her. That's for sure. Well, I mean, they're not going to get her with anything from the past that.
Well, I think they're going to try to do another BS where they try to introduce evidence that hasn't been exchanged with the defense, like they did this one with this EMT witness. Which, by the way, I thought it was an abysmal failure as a I gotcha moment, because you gave your entire defense playbook to Turtle Boy and he published it.
Right.
It's hard to believe that none of these witnesses actually read all that stuff. I'm pretty sure they probably did.
Oh, they're lawyers for sure. They are lawyers.
So she probably knew about she knew about the photos. They all know about all your information that you've released to the public. Hey, Bisto.
He said she didn't have any actual tears. I know. I heard that. What got me was when the first guy was up there and they asked him about footprints in the snow. There were none at first leading to the house. Like, if it were me and I knew the people in the house as well as her sister, I would have hauled ass to that house with my phone, calling 911 and banging on the door for the brother-in-law that's a first responder. That would just be me.
I think they're back. I think they're coming back now with more questionings. But
you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't she run up there and say,
there's a lot of incriminating things, like, this might be the last time you see me. Her saying that to like one of the witnesses.
Her sister-in-law.
This court is in session, please be seated.
Her. Yeah. But I thought that was weird. Why wouldn't you run up there?
So, jurors, I can assure you that by Monday, I mean, we're in really good shape. It's an organizational situation that I have to deal with. So we've been dealing with that. We appreciate your patience, and we are in good shape. And Ms. Gianetti, if you need the exhibit, it's here.
Terrific. May I have it published again on the camera?
Yes.
Speaker.
Now,
We're all caught up.
with regard to the injuries that you observed, did you notice any lividity on the body when you were looking at John O'Keefe?
Being hypothermic, he was very pale overall. So the skin wasn't pinked up yet. So it's hard to really judge the rest of the skin that way until it's warmed up and much later into the scene.
You are familiar with the term lividity, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you just explain that to the jury?
That's like bruising. So it's like the pooling of blood in lower sections. So for like a cardiac arrest patient, when they have lividity, it looks like bruising on the underside where all the blood has pooled.
Right.
And we did not really notice that.
But it's not actually bruising from an injury. It's just the blood
It's settling down. It's the same thing, yes.
One at a time, please.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, so it appears like bruising, and bruising is basically pooling of blood under the skin. So lividity is just gravity-fed pooling of blood under the skin. And it usually happens what is the section of the body that is lowest.
Right.
I see. Okay. Now, with regard to the scratches that you've testified about and that you now observe on Exhibit 382, I believe, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your testimony on direct examination was that you observed them in the forearm area, correct?
It was the right, like forearm to arm. I was trying to signal like right up here, but yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
I guess that's my point.
Yeah.
It wasn't just on the
Not just, it was the arm area. You know, mostly what I noticed was forearm, but there was some around there.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
wasn't just below the
No, it
elbow.
wasn't up just below the elbow.
There was some above the
Yes.
elbow as well?
Yep.
That's consistent with Exhibit 382?
Correct.
I missed that moment, Laura?
Yes.
What is he somewhat bruising or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that he might be trying to use his like experience in the past to ask him questions about the wounds.
Yeah.
But that's my
No
understanding.
further questions.
So Lally, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Wait,
All right,
what?
Lieutenant, thank you very much. So
Yeah,
you're all
thank
set.
Wait, what? That was it?
Yeah. And see, I thought there was lividity. I've said it all along, like
Yeah.
on his back and under his hand, but guess not.
That was it? I thought it was gonna get more than that, to be honest
Next
with you.
witness, Mr. Lally.
We need
Yes, Your Honor. The Commonwealth would call Mr. Daniel Whitley to the stand.
who's that? Another firefighter.
The names like escape me right now.
No, she's laughing, talking. Should never even smile.
Oh shit, she's smiling.
Oh yeah, laughing at her.
Now the jury in the room? Oh,
You
that's
someone's
not
going to
good.
ever achieve the court during the case down here and you can the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Looks familiar.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
Daniel Whitley, Whitley.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a paramedic firefighter with the town of
Rita
Canton Fire Department.
Lombardi is in there?
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire?
I was hired in March of '06.
And prior to that work with the Canton Fire Department, did you
Wow.
work within that same field in any other capacity for any other company?
Yes, correct.
Working circuit.
I worked for American Medical Response out of Brockton as an EMT intermediate and a paramedic for 5 years.
And you're a certified paramedic, is that correct?
Correct.
And how long have you held that certification?
Some guys.
It was, I believe, November of 2006 that I
What is
got that
that?
certification.
And is there any sort of continuing educational component or recertification process that's involved with being a certified paramedic?
Yes, we recertify every 2 years. We're required to hold basic life support card, which is just generally CPR, and advanced cardiac life support, which is ACLS. It's more dealing with EKGs and how to run resuscitations, cardiac arrests, things of that nature.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th into January 29th, 2022, were you working with the Canton Fire Department on those dates?
Yes,
What kind of shift were you working?
24-hour shift, 8 a.m. to 8 a.m.
And where were you assigned on that particular day?
The Ponquag Station, Station 2.
The Ponquag Station, where is that located within?
The north side of town on Southmont Street.
And how were you assigned to a specific duty or a specific?
Yes, I was assigned to Ambulance 2 with Jason Becker as I was a field
Sorry.
training officer at that point.
Is Queen okay? I heard that her dog passed.
I can't really get into like I can't get into what the condition of Tilly is.
Oh, I thought, okay, well, I got.
It's another dog. Yeah, it's another dog. I can't really get into. I'm gonna let her do it. So I can't get into that question.
Oh, okay. I thought the dog passed. I was gonna just ask.
Even if the dog did or didn't, I wouldn't get into it because it's not my thing to talk about. You know what I mean? It's hers.
Wondering if she's okay. Okay.
Oh, she's getting along.
Okay.
Point, and he was just finishing up his field training. Between the two stations, we're able to hear what the dispatch complaint is, what they're going for, and it came in as, I believe, CPR in progress in the snow or something to that regard. So we knew that was a fairly serious call that Station 1 had gone to.
Now, when you received your dispatch at approximately 6:42 a.m. or so, what was that call in regard to, and where did you respond?
We were dispatched for a.
And as far as your assignments within the ambulance between yourself and firefighter Becker, with regard to this call, who was doing what?
I was driving. He's what we call the tech, the lead paramedic on the case. That's just generally how we operate.
And from your response, or you're driving from Station 2 to Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you observe or experience en route in between the two?
At that point, it was snowing pretty heavily. We were coming down Chapman Street, getting ready to take the right onto Fairview. We nearly slid off the road, making the turn onto Fairview. It was snowing that heavily, and I don't believe the roads had been really plowed or treated or anything like that for us to. So it was pretty slippery.
Did you hear that?
What happened?
Listen to this.
We're able to hear what the dispatch complaint is, what they're going for, and it came in as, I believe, CPR in progress in the snow or something to that regard. So we knew that it was a fairly serious call that Station 1 had gone to.
Coming up.
Now, when you received your dispatch at approximately 6:42 a.m. or so, what was that call in regard to, and where did you respond?
We were dispatched for a Section 12.
Hold on.
And as far as your assignments within the ambulance between yourself and firefighter Becker, with regard to this call, who was doing what?
I was driving. He's what we call the tech, the lead paramedic on the case. That's just generally how we operate.
And from your response, or you're driving from Station 2 to Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you observe or experience en route in between the two?
At that point, it was snowing pretty heavily. We were coming down Chapman Street, getting ready to take the right onto Fairview. We nearly slid off the road, making the turn onto Fairview. It was snowing that heavily, and I don't believe the roads had been really plowed or treated or anything like that for us to.
Bingo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it was pretty slippery.
Now, in addition to ambulance number 2 that you and firefighter Becker were in, what, if any, other sort of vehicles or apparatus was dispatched to this call as well?
There was engine 3, which is the District 1 engine, and at least 2 police cruisers, and then another gray SUV kind of further down from where we parked.
Now, when you arrive in this area on Fairview Road, what, if anything, do you sort of observe as far as who's there when you arrive?
When I got out, my Lieutenant Woodbury and Sam Park were there.
And they were on the engine, is that correct?
They were on the engine, correct?
Now, beyond sort of personnel from your department, you mentioned that there were some police officers there as well?
Yes, Melanie and Sarah, and then 2 other females, at least 2 other females.
And the other 2 females, where were they?
Where's
when you
good?
first sort of get out of the ambulance?
A few yards ahead of us, a few dozen yards ahead of us, I'd say.
And were there any other vehicles beyond sort of first responders that you observed on scene?
Just that other gray SUV.
And so I guess my question is, where were the 2 females that you observed in relation to the gray SUV?
Near it, maybe in front of, maybe one was inside. There were 3 females there.
And at some point while you're on scene, you learned the identity of the patient, correct?
Yes,
And what was the name of the patient?
Karen Reed.
And you had some conversation with Karen Reed that day, is that correct?
Yes,
And do you see Karen Reed in the courtroom?
I do.
Could you just describe that where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
She's seated right at that table right there.
I'm sorry, if you could just point as to where she is.
Right here.
No, just that's record reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, When you first sort of arrived on scene, who, if anyone, is the first person that you saw?
Lieutenant Woodbury and Sam Pluck.
And following that conversation, who, if anyone, you speak to?
Probably briefly Lieutenant Mullaney, but more, I'm sorry, not Lieutenant, Officer Mullaney and Officer Sarah.
Now, following your conversation, well, let me ask you this in general terms. When you respond to a call for Section 12, what is sort of the protocol that you go through in regard to that?
Whether it's a Section 12 or any call, basically, the lead tech generally takes over immediate patient care, goes over, assesses. Usually the partner will go over and try and find
Did anybody hear him say what time he went?
out background details, try and find, not only, well, especially for Section 12, you want to get, the tech will get, which is Jason's role, the patient story, and then I'll get everyone else's story.
And at some point, you have a conversation with Ms. Reed as well.
Oh, yes.
And where is that in relation to vehicles on scene? So what is that initial conversation?
The initial conversation, she was very upset. She kept saying, so we had a Section 12 written, and that was to take her to the hospital because she made threats against her life, saying, I don't want to live anymore. If my husband dies, I don't want to be alive anymore. And myself and Jason and Lieutenant Woodbury were kind of like, well, that's seemingly more in the lines of normal grieving process after something traumatic happens to a loved one, whether they're going to die or not. We kind of didn't feel like it kind of led to that level of a Section 12 to have her transported to the hospital. So at that point, I exited the ambulance and I went to speak with Officer Saraf, and I said, this kind of doesn't. If we want her to be at the hospital, get a full eval, we're going to need more than just. If my husband dies, I want to die, because that seems just like normal grieving things to say. And so I went back to the ambulance. He went. I don't know where he went. I don't know whether it was cruiser or what. But he came back, notified me that her
Sustained.
And from that conversation, did you receive more information or more clarity as to statements in this reading?
Yes, Officer Saraf had said that.
Objection.
So not what he said, sir. So
We
You
were
are
informed
unmuted.
that.
Objection.
I'm not sure.
so you can't testify to what somebody else told you. You can when there's no objection regarding what Ms. Reed told you,
Okay.
but you can't testify what anybody else told you.
Okay.
So when I say sustain, that means you have to stop. And,
Okay.
and the lawyer will ask another question. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. So, Firefighter Whitley, at some point, specific to your conversations with the defendant, you described sort of her demeanor, any observations you made in relation to that as you were speaking.
Yes, she was very upset. She kept asking if there was any chance. She kept asking us if we knew if the person ambulance 1 had transported was alive or dead, and we could not speak to that. She asked if somebody could be alive in the snow without a jacket for many hours. And at that point, we were just trying to give her any hope that whomever A1 transported was still alive. And we kind of just talked about far off hypothermia cases where, kids have fallen in rivers and been submerged for many minutes, maybe even hours, and survived with no neurological deficits. So,
So she did say,
Yeah, she asked. She asked this guy too.
Yeah.
Shows.
we were just trying to give her some sort of hope on the way to the hospital that there was a chance that her husband could be alive.
Now, at this point, what, if anything, did you know about sort of the relationship between your patient, the defendant, Ms. Reed, and the patient from ambulance 1 out of the transport trees?
She identified him as her husband
And is that something that she said once or more than once?
many, many times.
Now, she asked you some questions about his status and made specific reference to his clothes. Is that correct?
The only thing I recall is asking if he could have survived without a jacket.
Now, as far as
that jacket has significance for some reason.
Yeah, and now it makes a little bit more sense also why the EMTs got it, because this kind of is an issue now that they try to raise, like, oh my God, the EMT confused the jacket with this this
Yeah.
hoodie slash thing, and you have Karen Reed now even stating, "Oh, it's a jacket. It's a jacket." So like, I think that should be like pointed out at this point that
Right,
it gets confused as a jacket. And she's been asking about how long can someone stay out in the cold with the jacket or without a jacket, stuff like that.
So now she's saying, I didn't hear that. She's saying it was a jacket?
You know what? I misheard. I fucked up. Actually, I messed
Because
up.
other people have said they consider the hoodie a jacket, but she had said he got out of the car without his jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My apologies. I fucked up. I went on a tirade. I did a glare.
These conversations that you had with Miss Reed, where did they occur in relation to the ambulance?
They were in the back of the ambulance.
And who, if anyone, was present in the back of the ambulance, beyond yourself?
Jason Becker.
And with reference to, you mentioned that firefighter Becker was sort of the lead paramedic or the lead tech on this, is that correct?
Yes.
So is there, from sort of his role and your role, what are some of the sort of differences in the duties and responsibilities in relation, we'll call it?
So for any Section 12, our department policy is there will be 2 EMTs, paramedics, firefighters with during transport at all times. That's both for our safety and the patient safety. So that's why it wasn't just 2 EMTs or paramedics driving to the hospital. I was in back with Jason, and Sam Park was driving.
Now, as far as you testified earlier about observations of her being sad or distraught, is that correct?
Correct.
Was that consistent throughout your interaction with her, or?
No. There would be episodes where she would like go from crying in her hands to all of a sudden perking up. She was crying about having to take care of kids, saying she couldn't do it.
Good Lord.
And I was saying,
Oh,
you know, you can do this. It's not as hard as it seems. She kept saying, I can't take care of these kids. They're not my kids, and they're not his kids. That's when I figured out who ambulance 1 trained.
what? What?
What you saying this at the scene? Oh my
I don't think she
God.
liked the kids, really.
Transported.
Wow.
And I was saying, well, it seems like you have a good, strong support system. People who came and helped you in a blizzard to help come find your husband.
Boyfriend.
She said, she asked me if I knew Carrie Roberts. I said I did. She said anybody who knows Carrie Roberts wouldn't say those things. And that kind of
What?
took me aback a bit. It was,
Okay.
it seemed strange to say something like that.
Yeah.
After you were just crying because your husband was dead.
Okay.
Take you back just within.
I was just kind of surprised.
If I could take you back within that just a minute.
Holy fuck, this woman's
testified that during that
nut job.
description.
Huh?
This woman's a nut job.
I know. Why? What was it? I'm lost.
I have never, I mean, I've experienced great loss, and my first thought wasn't like, oh my God, how could I ever take care of these?
I lost my brother and sister within like months.
Yeah.
And I don't even think I could think. You know what I mean? Like, I tried not to think. I hear this.
Whoa, that is some fucking
Is that
weirdo thing.
consistent throughout your interaction with her, or?
No. There would be episodes where she would like go from crying in her hands to all of a sudden perking up. She was crying about having to take care of kids, saying she couldn't do it. And I was saying, you know, you can do this. It's not as hard as it seems. She kept saying, I can't take care of these kids. They're not my kids, and they're not his kids. That's when I figured out who ambulance 1 transported. And I was saying, well, it seems like you have a good, strong support system. People who came and helped you in a blizzard to help come find your husband. She said, she asked me if I knew Carrie Roberts. I said I did. She said anybody who knows Carrie Roberts wouldn't say those things. And that kind of took me aback a bit. It seemed strange to say something like that after you were just crying because your husband was dead.
Wow.
Take you back just within.
I was just kind of surprised.
If I could take you back within that just a minute. So you had testified that during that her description, you sort of realized who was a patient in ambulance 1. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if anything, made you realize, or who did you think it was?
I live in and grew up in the Ponquag neighborhood of Canton, and Mr. O'Keefe was known for taking on his niece and nephew after I'm sorry, I'm not sure positive of the relationship, but I believe it was his sister, and his brother-in-law passed away, and it was something people admired him for, people looked up to him for. But I was able to. I also I moved into the Park Walk neighborhood back after living outside of Canton for a few years. The O'Keefes lived diagonally across from me. I never had any sort of interaction with him or anything. When I moved in, my wife was probably about 6 months pregnant, and I had 2 toddlers, so I was pretty busy. I figured he was pretty busy. I never even had a chance to introduce myself or anything before he moved to Meadows, which is how I kind of figured out.
Your Honor, I object to this line of question.
Okay, next, sustain, next question.
Now, you would also
Of course you do.
mentioned during your conversation with the defendant that you
At least the
she had
defense
said
is
some
not
things about Kerry
sleeping.
Roberts, correct?
Correct.
And how is it that you know Kerry Roberts?
Well, Kerry lives around the corner from me.
Objection.
No, I'll allow that. Next question, please.
How long have you known Kerry Roberts?
Just from moving back into the neighborhood, she would run the neighborhood block party, and she put out that she would like the fire truck there on the neighborhood Facebook page. So I volunteered to bring the fire truck to the neighborhood block party.
And was Ms. Roberts on scene on Fairview when you arrived in your ambulance?
Yes,
So she was one of the other females along with the defendant.
correct.
Now, with reference to when you brought up as far as support system, included Ms. Roberts within that, what, if anything, did the defendant say about Ms. Roberts?
Objection.
Sustain. Next question, please.
This conversation that you had with the defendants in the ambulance, about how long a period of time are we talking about?
20, 25 minutes.
And beyond what you've already testified to, what did sort of that conversation consist of, or what was the sort of tone and tenor of that conversation?
Again, we were just trying to give her any support. She was, once we were getting closer to the hospital, we
Objection.
So the tone and tenor. So what can you tell us about that? That's admissible, Mr. Yannetti. Go ahead.
the tone, she would go from being almost despondent to when she asked me if I knew Kerry Roberts, the only tone I can use to describe it is snarky.
Objection. Move to strike.
I'll strike that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Now, you transported to a Good Samaritan, is that correct?
Correct.
And when you, during the transport, where are you in relation to Ms. Reed from Fairview to Good Samaritan?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
During the transports, Ms. Reed is where within the
I believe we have what we call a check bench, which is a long bench. There's the ambulance stretcher, and then to next to the ambulance stretcher is we call it the CPR seat, and then that's where Miss Reed sat. And then I was in what we call the airway seat, which is basically like a captain's chair behind the stretcher.
And in addition to yourself and the defendant, who, if anyone else was sort of in the back of the ambulance at that time?
During transport? During transport, it was just me, Jason Becker, and Miss Reed.
So yourself along with firefighter Becker and right?
Correct.
Who was driving you?
Sam Park.
Now, when you arrived at Good Samaritan, what, if anything, happened?
Miss Reed was asking to be able to see John, and I made the decision that I would run ahead to see if that was in the realm of possibility with the emergency room physician there. So I ran ahead. I came into they call it the code room at Good Sam, and I asked if the wife could see the husband. The ER doctor asked if she would be upset. I said if she would be upset if she was allowed to or not, and I said she's going to be upset. I believe she's going to be upset either way. He was asking if she would get in the way of the resuscitation efforts, and I said it's possible. She's very upset.
And so,
Hey, Georgia.
once you arrive at the hospital with the patient, where do you go along with Ms. Reed?
We escorted her down to we call it the psych hall or the behavioral hall at Good Sam.
And about how long was it after you escorted her into the hospital that you stayed with her following that?
At least 10 minutes.
And during those 10 minutes, how would you describe sort of her behavior or demeanor during that time?
Objection.
No, he can testify to that.
He was giving the nurses a hard time about, I'm sorry, she was giving the nurses a hard time about having to get into a Johnny, about having to submit a urine sample. Even the ER techs went to the physician who was in the code room to see if she could not have to wear a Johnny, and the ER doc said no. If she's in the psych hall, she's a psych patient, needs to be in a Johnny. So at that point, there was just a nurse and a tech. We don't usually leave a psych patient with just a single nurse and a tech. So we decided to wait until security had gotten there before we left.
May I have one moment?
Yes.
I'm lost.
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Giannetti.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Got a lot of cleanup, Mr. Hanley.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Whitley, when you showed up, you learned that Karen Reed was the patient that you were to deal with, correct?
Correct.
And it was your expectation that she would be going to the hospital, correct?
Correct.
One of the things that you do when you transport somebody to the hospital is you try to get a medical history, correct?
Yep.
Why is that important?
Oh my God.
Generally, we get pertinent medical history to pass on to the hospital.
Stop it.
So if something were to happen where the patient wasn't able to
Oh God.
describe their past medical history,
even
it gets
know
passed
this.
on to the next caregiver, which would be the nurses, doctors at the hospital.
More information is always better than less information, correct?
I would say so.
And with regard to Ms. Reed, did you take a medical history from her?
I assume Jason did.
Okay. Did you learn the results of that medical history?
You'd have to refer to Jason's report.
Can I have a moment now?
Yes.
Uh-oh. No. Look what I did. I drew a picture.
May I approach?
Yes.
Mr. Whitley, if I, I'm actually going to show you two documents with your permission. One would be Jason's report, and you talked about Jason Becker, correct?
Correct.
The other is a police report from Sergeant Yuri Buchnick. I'm going to give you the second page of that.
So let's do them one at a time.
Sure. And you've asked for Jason Becker's report, so I'll give you that first, okay?
Okay.
And when I approach you, I'm going to hand this to you, and I just ask you to look at it silently by yourself.
Okay.
And then look up at me when you're done.
Okay.
I know. Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to collect that from you if you don't mind.
The first report was the NFIRS report from my lieutenant.
Was Jason Becker's report included in it
Yes.
as well?
Yep.
Having reviewed those documents, does that refresh your memory as to the medical history that was taken?
Yes.
And what can you tell us about that?
Just lists multiple sclerosis.
What is multiple sclerosis?
I believe it's a neurodegenerative disease where the myelin sheathing of the trying to think of the word here, but
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
I understand.
I'm sure you do. It's a disease.
It's a disease that's progressive and has neurological muscle control things involved with it.
And when you say progressive, that means it gets worse over time as you age?
As I understand it.
And that was the medical history you got from Karen Lee?
Correct.
I'm not further.
What,
All right.
what about the brain tumor? She didn't tell me.
So, sir, you are all set. Thank you, Mr. Whitley.
What was that about?
Well, but there's also Crohn's and a brain tumor.
Oh, she has a brain tumor too? Really?
Well, that's what Yannetti said at the very first arraignment. He said, "Sir, she has MS, Crohn's disease, and a brain tumor."
Well, she's the most unluckiest person around.
My question would be 9 drinks in 2 hours for any of those. Well, maybe the brain tumor. I don't know. It would depend on if it's like Molly's brain tumor or like, wow.
Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Yes, Your Honor, call Mr. Jason Becker to the stand.
That was disastrous for the defense, actually.
Yeah.
Like, they made her sound like a monster. And he didn't refute any of it.
I agree with yeah, he didn't. Well, wonder what that piece of paper said.
Well, we don't know, and the jury doesn't know.
Please watch your step.
Maybe.
Lally gets very creative with his hair when he's
You
not.
saw this way the understatement of the court and jury in the case down here, and should be truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I'm sure Woodstock.
Okay, whenever you're ready, Mr. Lally.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Could you please state your name and spell your last name?
First name is Jason. Last name is Becker. Becker.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm a firefighter paramedic, Canton Fire Department.
And how long have you been a member of the Canton Fire Department?
5.5 years.
And prior to that, what, if any, other employment did you have sort of within that same field?
I worked at Found Ambulance and South Shore Hospital.
How long did you work at each of those respective positions?
Found Ambulance was about 5 years. South Shore Hospital, approximately 3 years.
And with regard to South Shore Hospital, what is it that you did there?
I was a nursing assistant in the emergency room.
And with regard to your work as a firefighter paramedic for the Canton Fire Department, you were a certified paramedic?
Yes,
And when did you first receive that certificate?
October 2021.
And is that something that you receive, or when you receive that, is something that goes on in perpetuity, or is that something that you have a continuing educational component or recertification?
Con Ed education, every 2 years you have to recertify.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to January 28th, 2022 into January 29th, 2022. Were you working on that occasion?
I was.
And where were you assigned? I'm sorry. What type of shift were you working on that occasion?
What type of shift?
Yes, like what hour to what hour?
8 a.m. to 8 a.m., 24 hours.
So 8 a.m. on the 28th until 8 a.m. on the 29th.
Correct.
And where were you assigned on that day?
I was at Canton Station 2, Ambulance 2.
And who, if anyone else, was assigned with you to Ambulance 2 at Station 2 on that day?
Daniel Whitley, firefighter Daniel Whitley.
Now, at some point when you were working on the 29th, shortly after 6 a.m. or so, did you become aware of a call for station house number 1?
Yes.
And what, if anything, were you aware of as far as that earlier call?
As far as a man down in the dispatch, and I believe it was upgraded eventually to CPR in progress.
Now, at some point following that, approximately 6:41 a.m. or so, did you, your station house get a,
Yes.
and what that dispatch in regards to?
I'm not.
A
don't know what-
psych eval, possible section 12.
And in addition to yourself and firefighter Whitley in Ambulance 2, what, if any, other sort of vehicles or apparatuses were dispatched by your department to that call?
Canton Engine 3.
And if you know, who, if anyone, was on Canton Engine 3 at that time?
Lieutenant Greg Woodbury, firefighter Sam Park.
Now, with regard to the ambulance that you were in with firefighter Whitley, what were sort of let me ask you this, between sort of call volume, what if any sort of policy or protocol is there as far as who does what on a particular call?
We switch off.
And so on this particular call that you were dispatched to Fairview Road, what were sort of each of your respective duties and responsibilities between yourself and firefighter Whitley?
Firefighter Whitley was the driver at that point, and it was my tech is what it's called. So the next patient would be mine.
And so as sort of the lead tech on this, is that correct?
Correct.
So as far as the lead tech's role, what, if any, duties or responsibilities do you have in regard to writing a report?
It's my report. That'd be right.
May I approach the witness?
Yes.
With documents, just ask you to review that look up for me.
The first report up here is the engines. Second one would be mine.
You recognize the first few pages of that as the engines report, and the last few are yours, correct?
Correct.
And that's your report with relation to this dispatch and this call, correct?
Correct.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
I want to seek to introduce and admit as the next.
So both reports through this witness? Is there any objection?
May I just take a look at the DA's copy? May we approach?
Okay.
By the way, that was a disaster, that last witness. He made her look like a complete monster. Even bigger monster than I thought she was, to be completely honest with you. Crying about herself, stating about her, she can't do any, she's the husband, like that's her husband, and she can't
Yeah.
take care of these kids, and she's half crying, and she's being snarky about Carrie. Carrie,
What was that about?
what the fuck was that? And I'm reading Grant's Twitter thing, and it does not look good. It does not look, because he's got a front row seat to the whole jury pool, so he's looking at them, and I don't know if he's in the courtroom. He's in there. He's sitting in there, and so he's looking.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, and he says, just. Some of the jurors are literally showing signs of anger at Carrie. Some of them are just sad. Others are taking notes of everything, and one of them has his hand
With that event in my words,
over his mouth in shock.
Wow.
Okay.
Why would she even call Carrie? That's weird. Carrie Roberts,
Your Honor, with
Georgia.
the court's permission, can I return the report to the witness?
Yes.
Testimony.
Carrie Roberts is one of the women she called to go and help her find John in the snow. And she and a woman named Jennifer were with Karen when she found him.
I mean, this kind of destroys her whole, like, I tried to save him, and
Oh, I know. I was the only one.
I was the only one, and I'm sitting here like, oh my God, you actually, now it makes more sense why she was crying and hysterical. She was worried about herself.
Yeah.
She wasn't crying for the dead man on the lawn. She was crying about herself possibly going to jail. And that's what the truth is. Clip me on that. Allegedly. That's my feelings, my belief. Don't sue me, bro.
Absolutely.
When you
Chronicles. I hate saying that. Chronicles.
first sort of arrive in the area of 34, when you arrive in the area of Fairview Road, what, if anything, is it that you first observe upon your arrival?
Coming down the street or on scene?
Yes, coming out.
Coming down the street, live police lights. You can see the fire engine, and which is, I believe I said it's one black SUV.
And where is it that you and the ambulance sort of parked in reference to those other vehicles? That you see?
I believe we parked. If the SUV was facing towards us, we parked to the left. I don't recall where the police cruiser was, though.
And
Woodstock, that is John's family behind Karen.
Yeah, so John's family are literally staring at Karen Reed because they decided in the most brilliant tactical decision is to leave the big courtroom to the smaller courtroom so their fans can't get seats, and also that the person being accused of murder gets glared on constantly by the family.
And that was the defense that wanted a different.
Brilliant tactical
when
move
you first
by the
arrived
defense.
Yeah.
who, if anyone, is it that you first speak with when you get there?
When we got out of the ambulance, I passed Officer Saraf and Officer Mulaney. They kind of briefed us, and then I walked over to the black SUV.
And when you walk over to the black SUV, who is it that you observe in that black SUV?
I saw 2 females.
And of those 2 females, do you see one of them in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you just identify as to where she's seated or an article of clothing that she's wearing?
Right over there, the jacket on.
That's the record reflect identification.
Okay.
Now, with respect to the defendant, Ms. Reed, where within the vehicle is she when you first come up to the vehicle?
When I remember, she was in the front passenger seat.
And what, if any, knowledge did you have as far as the defendant, Ms. Reed, and her relationship to the earlier call that ambulance 1 had been dispatched?
Very little. I think we had gotten briefed that she was the wife of the previous patient.
And was that something that she had stated or something that somebody else had stated? Where does that awareness come
I believe it was one of the Canton police officers that said it.
I'm sorry, what was that answer?
It was one of the Canton police officers.
Okay.
And so when you walk up to the car, what is it that you say to her? What, if any, conversation did you have with Ms. Reed at that?
So I went up to the window and introduced myself and just kind of asked what was going on.
And how did she respond to that?
She was kind of, she was distraught. She was crying. She kind of told us that the statements she may have made, she didn't mean it because of the current events that she had just gone through.
What, if anything, did she say about that? If anything, did she say about what she had gone through?
That she had just done CPR on her husband.
Okay.
And
I had a phone call when at the very first of his testimony. Who is he? Tim? Anybody? Okay.
And so she referred to him as her husband as well.
Yes.
And this conversation that you had sort of at the side of the SUV, is that through the door, through the window?
From what I recall, it was through the window.
And at some point, does the conversation move to the ambulance?
Correct.
About how long was the conversation at the vehicle before the conversation shifted to the ambulance?
5 to 10 minutes.
And as far as your dispatch for a psych or section 12, correct?
Correct.
Can you explain to the jury sort of that process, just in general terms first, as far as what does that process entail?
And when we get on scene?
Yes.
For a section?
Yes, please.
We go on scene, we kind of look at the environment, see what the environment's like, see if the patient's cooperative, uncooperative, what their demeanor is, if there's any obvious self-harm. If there's none, we kind of go up and talk to them, get a report, and ask them some basic triage questions.
And is that sort of the policy or the protocol or what you followed in this instance with Ms. Reed?
Correct.
Now, beyond what she had indicated to you initially, what, if anything, was she asking you during the course of your conversation with her once you were in the ambulance?
She kept asking if he was dead or could he be dead.
Is that something that she said once or more than once or something?
More than once.
And could you describe sort of the tone of her voice when she was saying?
Don't people normally say, is he going to make it? Is he going to be okay?
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of like it was a rapid kind of pressure speech. She was just a lot repetitive.
And as you were speaking with her, what, if any, observations did you make of her facial area?
She had blood on her face and her neck and her
Damn.
mouth, her neck and chin.
Regard to sort of any earlier suicidal statements, what, if anything, did she say in relation to that?
She said she made him because she just went through traumatic events, seeing her husband dead, and she had no plan on acting on it.
What? What?
Now, pursuant
Oh,
to Section 12
okay.
call, what, if anything, are you doing as far as documentation goes with respect to vital signs, things like that?
It depends on the situation. In a situation of misreads, I took a regular, just vital signs, pulse oximetry to see her heart rate. But for someone like a female psych patient, it's more verbal.
And as far as any of those sort of vital signs and things that you took, what, if anything, abnormal did you note in regard to that?
Nothing too abnormal. Just the heart rate might have been a little bit high, but within normal range.
Could you please keep your voice up, sir? Thank you.
Sorry. But the vital signs, her heart rate was a little high, it was 98, but it was nothing concerning.
During the time that you're having this conversation with her in the back of the ambulance, how would you describe her demeanor?
She would have periods of calmness, and then other periods she would appear agitated because she didn't want to go to the hospital. But all in all, she was cooperative with us.
She didn't want to go to the hospital.
Now, at some point, she's cooperative, correct? And
A year and
agrees to go?
9 months.
Eventually, yes.
You say eventually, was there some conversation related?
We kind of mentioned to her basically what a Section 12 is. And unfortunately, she'd have to come with us voluntarily, involuntarily.
So you're explaining the process to her, is that correct?
Correct.
Eventually, she agrees to go, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the transport goes, who, if anyone, is in the back of the ambulance with her during the transport?
Me and firefighter Whitley.
And who, if anyone, was driving the ambulance to the hospital?
Firefighter Park.
And which hospital did you transport Ms. Reed?
We went to the Good Samaritan Hospital.
Now, during the course of transfer to the hospital or transport, what, if anything else, did Ms. Reed say with reference to children?
She was talking about children. She was unsure and she didn't know if she'd be able to take care of them. She was worried about that.
She was worried about that.
Yeah, she's worried about who would take care of the children if he was pronounced dead.
And what, if anything, did she say about herself in reference to the children?
She didn't think that she could take care of them on her own.
Now, as far as this...
So after all this was over, she called John's brother, who was at John's house, and said, I want to come by. And I think she said, see the kids. And then she just packed a bag, was there like half an hour and left.
Yeah, she skedaddled away.
Yeah, gone.
Bye.
Other person or the patient from the earlier call, how did she refer for that person in relationship to yourself?
She was calling him the husband.
Now, with reference to this particular, with reference to Ms. Reed in this conversation, what, if anything, did she say in regards to the last time that she had spoken to who she called her husband?
She had said that they had gotten into an argument. She was sad because that was the last thing she had said to him was the argument, but she didn't go into detail on what the argument was about or what was said.
Now, with regard to her speaking about children, what, if any, further conversation did either yourself or firefighter Whitley have with her in regard to that?
With children?
Yes.
I don't recall.
The other female party that Ms. Reed was initially with in the vehicle when you first arrived, did you know who that was?
I don't know who she was.
And at any point in time, subsequent to that, to learn who she was?
I did.
Who did you learn her?
She was Ms. Carrie Roberts.
And with relation to your conversation with Ms. Reed on that day of January 29th, what, if anything, did she say about Ms. Roberts?
Objection.
Sustained.
Why? Damn it. I feel bad for him too.
The regard to the sort of medical questions that you were asking, from those medical questions, what, if any, questions would you typically ask someone with relation to consumption of alcohol or drugs?
Well, probably part of the psych assessment, I asked if she had taken any drugs or alcohol, and she had denied it at that point.
She said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
The observations that you testified to earlier in regard to her, and by her I mean Ms. Reed's demeanor.
Demeanor. Oh, demeanor.
Did that change at all during the course of your interaction with her, or was that consistent as well?
Right.
Demeanor as in...
It's a poorly phrased question. I'm going to try and rephrase it. So with regard to her demeanor throughout the course of your interaction with her, how would you describe that?
She was cooperative. Then she'd be calm, and then eventually she would kind of get a little agitated and repetitive questions. But she seemed distraught.
Now, with respect to the person she indicated was her husband, what, if any, questions did she ask either you or firefighter Whitley or both in relation?
She was asking if he was dead. Or could he be dead? Could he be dead? And she said, could I have hit him?
Was that something that she asked once or more than once?
It wasn't a lot. It was more of, could he be dead? Could he be dead?
So somewhat repetitive, is that correct?
Correct.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Woodstock, she laid on him. She went and laid on him. I don't know that they found a blanket, did they?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they'd be fine to, but they.
Firefighter Becker, just my own clarification. You testified earlier that first arrived on scene and first spoke with Ms. Reed. She indicated that there was some statements that she said there were some statements that she did not meet, correct?
Correct. Suicidal statements.
And so, exactly. So my question is, that was in reference to the suicidal statements she had made prior to your arrival, correct?
Correct.
Not to any subsequent statements, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further.
All right, cross-examination.
Thank you, Rona. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You and I have never met, right?
I believe so.
I wanted to go back to one piece of testimony that you offered on direct
This
examination,
is
if I
Sharon's
may.
Sure.
dad.
You had, in response to a question from the prosecutor about the medical history and your question to Ms. Reed about whether she had had any alcohol to drink. I believe your answer today was she denied having drank alcohol the night before?
At the time that she was, I mean, she could drink, I don't know if she drank alcohol the night before, but at that time I asked if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
I'm sorry, if I just didn't hear.
Yeah,
the
you
answer.
need to keep your voice up, sir, or speak
Okay.
directly into
Sorry.
the microphone.
I asked her if she had any drugs or alcohol, and she said no.
Oh, if she had any drugs.
Well, if she taken any drugs or alcohol, she said no.
Did you specify a time period?
I just assumed it'd be in the last few hours for the reason why we were there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Unsure if she had alcohol days prior, but for the reason why we were there.
Okay. So was it your understanding that the two of you had an understanding of what you were asking?
Sure.
Objection, move to
Yeah,
strike.
yeah. So the objection sustained. It's stricken. Ask the question differently, Ms. Tianetti.
Thank you, Your Honor. All right. So I guess with regard to your intent and your state of mind when you were asking that question, you were asking, had you taken any drugs or alcohol within the last few hours? That's what you meant to ask?
Objection.
So the objection sustained.
What did you specifically ask?
So when I ask a patient if any drugs or alcohol, I'm talking about at that point in time, but an hour before, 2 hours before, not days before, weeks before.
Okay.
So-
And this was at 6:40 in the morning?
Correct.
Did you smell any alcohol on her at that time?
I did not.
Okay. You would agree that she did tell you at some point that she had alcohol the night before, correct?
No.
All right. So this is now, what's today, May 3rd of 2024?
Correct.
And this happened back in January, on January 29th of 2022?
Correct.
You were interviewed by a Trooper Michael Proctor on February 14th of 2022. Do you recall that?
I recall meeting with him, yes.
And February 14th of 2022 would have been a little bit more than 2 weeks after January 29th of 2022, correct?
Correct.
Your memory of what Karen Reed told you about whether she had anything to drink the night before would have been much better on February 14th of 2022 when you were talking to Trooper Michael Proctor than it would be today, correct?
Correct.
Because your memory doesn't get better over time, correct?
Certain circumstances, sure.
And with regard to whether Karen had indicated that she took any drugs, you told Trooper Proctor she said that she had not, correct?
Correct.
With regard to whether she had had alcohol the night before, you told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that she did consume alcohol last night, correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to see a sidebar on this. Please bring that with you, please.
Hey, Ring Bear. Hey, Crime Suppression.
I don't know what they're getting at, to be honest with you, with this line of questioning.
Yeah, I don't either. Just he's trying to find just bad reporting, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you not hear?
yeah, this doesn't make sense that going with these line
With
of
your
questioning.
permission, I'll repeat the question.
Sure.
You told Trooper Proctor on February 14th of 2022 that Karen had told you that she did consume alcohol the previous night, correct?
If that's in his notes,
Well, is your memory exhausted as to whether you told him that?
I don't recall.
Terrible
If you
question.
saw his report with your statements in it, would that refresh your memory?
Sure.
Okay, let me stop it. Can I
It's a two-page
Okay.
report. I'll give you both.
Go ahead.
Why I say it's a terrible question, because usually with reports you say, do you have an independent recollection of that particular statement or that event? So like, and then he would say no, and then it says, then you would say, will your notes refresh your recollection? And you say, and he says yes, and you hand him the notes, and you let them see, and he says, does the notes refresh your recollection? His questions are poorly put, and it's causing confusion with the witness. It's like you have to ask them if they have an independent recollection of things.
Right.
People don't have and also that's just how it is. And he's asking very poor questions, let's just say. But you can continue. I just wanted to point
That
that
was
out.
2 years prior, too.
Yeah, I mean, just very poor questions that are causing confusion and making this process even longer. You just ask that. No one's going to have certain people might surprise you with independent recollections, but most of the times when it comes to reports, they're probably not, because this is one of probably 5-6 calls a day.
Right.
Actually, it's a two-page report. I'll give you both pages, but I have highlighted a line on the second page, so I would direct you to that. May I approach?
Yes. And take your time reading it, sir.
Yes, yeah. And please read it silently to yourself and look up at me when you're done.
Yeah, she probably said, I had some last night, but not, now or whatever. And what if he said, Proctor made that shit up?
That'd be amazing. I'd be so shocked if that happened. I'd be like, what? The Claire was right. Holy fuck.
Oh, God. Did you watch Vinny?
So I did say.
So, Mr. Becker, a couple of things. Wait for a question,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but also
Sorry.
you have to keep your voice up.
Okay.
I'm close to you and I'm having trouble hearing you. Most of the jurors are further away.
And the way this works is I have to collect that from you and then ask you a question, okay?
So,
I may approach you on it.
Yes.
Having reviewed that document, does that refresh your memory as to whether or not Karen Reed, or strike that? Having reviewed that report, does that refresh your memory as to the fact that
Does that refresh your memory?
Does that refresh your memory?
it does.
Okay. And so did you tell Trooper Proctor on February 14th that Karen Reed had told you on January 29th that she had consumed alcohol the night before that?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
And what?
Is it fair to say that when you were listening to her talk at times, that her speech was very rapid?
Correct.
And particularly when she had said the words, is he dead? Is he dead? She would repeat it repetitively, correct?
Correct.
And she was fixated on that, correct?
Correct.
And with regard to
Was she fixated on that?
last interaction that she spoke about with whom you thought she said her husband, she didn't give you any detail about that, correct?
She did not.
You don't know whether it was an in-person communication?
That wasn't my position to ask more details about that.
Oh, and I'm not criticizing you, sir. I'm just trying to get to what your knowledge was in terms of
Right.
information you got from her. So she didn't specify that it was an in-person communication, correct?
No,
She didn't specify as to whether it was a phone conversation?
she did not.
She didn't specify whether it was a text message exchange back and forth?
She did not.
And she didn't specify whether it was an angry voicemail that she left, correct?
She did not.
no further questions.
Thank you.
Just one moment, Your Honor.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm a juror, I'm thinking they're really trying hard to find some bullshit reason.
Yeah. Well, she's gonna claim that she didn't drink. Like,
Yeah,
she
but
had MS and she didn't
Nothing
drink.
further for this witness, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Mr. Becker, or Firefighter Becker, you are all set, sir. Thank you very
oh god, I
much.
bet he's gonna go jury.
That's okay. Thank you. If you can leave that right where it is. Thank you, sir.
I don't know if this was the worst witness. I think.
No, I don't think.
Your next witness, Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure.
Well, welcome to the defense tactic: leading questions and speculation. That's their defense. I guess you can try to fast. Are you a little behind? You can.
I don't think so. I thought I could. Maybe. Oh, maybe. No, not really.
Have numbers 200 and 300 and
I'll just speed it up.
Pointless testimony on both sides. Well, not the first fire department guy. He basically, that guy was devastating. It made her look like a terrible person.
Yeah.
I mean, that was disastrous. I
It
couldn't.
makes sense that rather than starting with another witness, I figure it's a Friday afternoon, it's been a long week for you all, we'll excuse you at this point. So please do not discuss this case with anyone.
Makes sense
Don't
at the
do
end
any
early.
independent
19
research or
minutes early.
investigation into
Yeah.
this case.
It's
If you
over?
happen to
Yeah,
see, hear,
'cause
or
they're
read
done at
anything
4.
about this case,
needed to discuss on this. Is there anything else you need from the lawyers? Need
Did you
me to do
see-
this, or is
Did you see Vinny last night?
No, I don't watch Vinny.
It was pretty good.
Like,
Kevin.
what happened? What
Well,
happened? to
Kevin
Vinny?
was on there, but that
Oh,
guy.
you mean Court TV? Okay, yeah. I
Oh,
thought
what
you
did I
meant his
say?
YouTube channel because Vinny has a YouTube channel.
No, the guy Rocco. Do you know who that is?
The guy, the popcorn guy, right?
Yeah, who is he?
You mean like Nick, the Rocco guy?
Yeah,
Nick Rocco?
yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy that did that GoFundMe and helped sell popcorn for Karen Reed's defense.
What is he an expert in?
I don't know. I never really looked up to him. I just knew him as the popcorn guy that raised money for Karen Reed's defense, and he seems really serious about Karen Reed being innocent. Never really looked into him. Didn't really care. I didn't see him like harassing anyone. So I was
He
kind of
does on. He does on Twitter.
by harassing, you mean just tweeting at people?
Yeah, he's an ass.
Okay, but that's a little bit different than going to someone's business and like tracking their real life and shit.
Oh yeah, not that big of it.
Yeah, no, I'm just like, everyone says shitty things on Twitter. You know what I mean? That's why I never really looked into him. I haven't heard anything, so I never was like, okay, I got to find out who this guy is, because I never really saw him at the protests, like their supposed protests and stuff like that. But what do you think of today's hearing? Do you think it was great for the defense? Did you think that they did a great job?
I didn't think it was great.
Wait a minute, you didn't think it was great? What did you not think it was great about their defense? Like, tell me.
Well, I just think it feels forced. Like they're trying to find some technicality to get her off rather than just the truth.
Also, you don't have the link pinned, by the way, just to let you know.
Okay. I'm trying to find this. Just
But-
the guy.
I mean, like, I thought it was pretty disastrous due to the fact that basically their big gotcha moment was ruined by their own stupidity by not introducing that piece of evidence like months ago so that they can have that gotcha moment to defense witness.
Yeah.
Basically, you have multiple people stating that they heard her say it. You have her basically stating she heard her say it. And now everyone knows that she's a heartless monster, that while her supposed boyfriend's dying on the ground, she's like, well, I can't take care of these kids. And then also asking the fire department guy, how long can someone live without their jacket or something like that in the cold? I think that was the exact.
Gets me. The
Yeah.
jacket really gets me.
Yeah.
And I said that from the beginning when she said that. Why?
So, I mean, like, that guy kind of like, to me, it's like, okay, now you just verified that she asked another person to look on how long it takes for someone to die in the cold. And she asked the fire guy, and that was not even challenged by the defense. That was disastrous. Absolutely disastrous.
Which one? What?
The first, the first medical, the first firefighter, the guy, EMT guy.
Yeah. Today?
Yeah. He asked her, like, how long can someone stay in the cold without a jacket?
Oh, yeah.
And that was disastrous that she did that, because that adds like credibility to the whole thing about being asked about how long.
All of it. Right.
Yeah, it adds credibility. And when you have multiple people that have sat there and heard this woman basically claim, hey,
yeah, they're not going to all cover up for.
Yeah, they're not going to all cover up. And also the fact is this woman's heartless. I mean, I was watching some of the people. I don't know if I got to watch other people because but that to me shocked a lot of people hearing about how she acted, about the kids and about all that stuff. Just makes her sound heartless. That makes her sound like evil.
Right. And the part where he said no tears.
No tears.
There should have been no blood on her face from all the crying. You know what I mean? Like, and why didn't she wipe the blood off? Like, everybody saw it.
Like, holy shit. That sounds heartless. Like,
can you see Vinny right now?
I see Vinny.
Okay, look. I'm going to show you. Look at Kevin.
Poor Kevin.
And he's kind of lurking back there.
He's like, listen.
Guy, let me find him.
Yeah, the popcorn guy.
Rocco's
going to be proven wrong very soon with the whole lucky guy.
Rocco, I don't know. Here it is.
Because my problem with Lucky is that like the prosecution has set down the foundation that it was snowing and it was very dark. So how the hell is Rocco going to know the make and model of a car down the block? Or
No, that's Lucky.
No, that's
Lucky, the one that said he could tell it was
yeah, but that's the problem. Like he's on the other side of the street in the dark. How is he going to tell?
And snowing.
How the hell is he going to tell? Like
because all the cars, if you look in the driveway, they're covered with snow. Like how would you?
Like to me, that just says like a lot. I mean, we saw the video. We could barely see houses at certain points when it was driving by, let alone cars down the block. And it took us a while to even find 3 people on the side of the road with a deceased person.
I couldn't even see them. Like I kept having to look. So listen how they introduce. This is a funny segment. Watch. Come on.
Be tough. What do you think? How does she see him coming from that?
Anyway, they introduced Rocco as an expert. They don't say what.
Expert in bullshit, maybe, but not an expert I know of.
Direction from the back seat.
The same way that the paramedic who was sitting in the passenger side said he saw a shadow figure body laying on the lawn. I mean, when Karen Reed arrives on the scene, she's in the back seat. She's actively looking for John. You have a driver in a snowstorm. They're saying it's a blizzard.
They're going to be looking forward.
She's paying attention. She's not crashing her car. That road is narrow. So if another car is coming down that road at that time.
And Karen's in the rear right passenger seat. I'm sure Terry's
no spotlight in the car.
Yeah, nothing.
You got to be careful of what you're doing. So Karen is actively looking for John. So when you're looking for something, you're going to find it.
Not always.
Well, the ambulance driver, by the time they were coming, there were police cruisers there. There were figures surrounding John. So you saw the police cruiser had his spotlight on the scene. So they were coming into a very different scene. But if you look at the first cruiser that arrived, it's amazing how dark it is.
Did you know what that car is? Right there? You can't
No, I couldn't.
Even though we know.
And the other guy said it didn't look like they had treated or plowed.
With hindsight, that the women are there over John, you still can't spot them. It's almost impossible to see.
Are you learning anything from these videos? We only have like 10 seconds left. Have you learned more from watching the videos in court?
Not really, because everyone's testimony is saying the same thing. She's frantic. She found her boyfriend dead on the lawn. Nobody else was showing emotion. And, you know, show me the camera from across the street. It's the only way I'm going to believe it, Vinny.
What camera?
The deputy chief of police across the street, camera on his house. Yeah. If she did it, it's there, but they didn't provide it.
Yeah.
Kevin Lennon. Yeah, I know. Show us the video. Kevin Lennon, great to have you both here. We'll be speaking.
What was bad is they keep showing Kevin's, the guy being hit this. And Kevin has said, I don't believe that anymore.
Confused on. I'm just speculating a little bit here. But the truck that was behind them that had Ryan Nagel as a passenger that testified, he testified to seeing them stop in front of the driveway briefly and then pull forward to the far end of the property. So what I speculate happened, so then later on inside the house, Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe from the window saw the vehicle, what they thought was pulling forward. But the times don't really make sense because the times that they spotted it seemed to be later based on when Jen McCabe was texting John, are you here and pull up? So what I think happened was she left, leaving, went a certain distance away, and then in a rage, hit the gas, went back.
I just think she somehow sideswiped him. But if he has no tears in his clothes, that's weird. Don't you think?
I don't even know what the condition of the clothes were. I mean, I don't know if there was
one of them said there were no tears in his clothes.
Yeah, if there's no tears in his clothes, then how did the dog bite through his fucking shirt?
And would you get? I would. Like, I've done shit to myself before where if I lift my sleeve, there's a mark.
You know, it could be that you hit like a metal object and it kind of causes such abrasions on the bottom, like goes through your shirt.
Blunt force.
Yeah, blunt force trauma to the area. Like a dog that I heard people say those marks look like dog bites. I'm like, they're not dog bites. They're not puncture wounds.
Remember, that was in that article her mom said.
Yeah, it's like if it would be like stretching it to even think of it as scratch marks because it's not deep enough. It's like they're not really that deep, like deep. Some of those wounds.
Did you look at the damage on the car in front of the house? Did you catch that today?
No, I didn't. I think I missed that part a little bit.
I'll see if I can find it.
Why would his clothes tear? He was hit in the head and fell back, and no reason for the clothes. Yeah, well, I mean, if they're supposing that a dog bit through his clothes, they would be torn. So, like, I think they're trying to, like, I don't know what the defense is doing, to be honest with you. I don't understand their thought process. I mean, like, I think it would be good enough for them just to be like, okay, well, you're an EMT and you probably misheard my client, basically. And she was asking the question, did. You could have misheard that one word, right?
Yeah.
You know, and that's all they could have done. But yet they're trying to drag out this, like, conspiracy of knowing people and all this stuff. And it's like, I'm trying to sit here. I'm like, that just makes no motherfucking sense. And then your client is basically, doesn't want to go to the hospital and is talking about how she's not going to be able to raise these kids and they're not her kids. And you know what I mean? Yeah. And then she's like, I don't want to meet, this will probably be the last time I meet you. And then she runs to the place, packs up her shit and runs and never gets seen again. I mean, what the fuck is that?
Well, I know she had a restraining order at some point.
Yeah, there is no dog that they did the DNA test around the clothes area and they found no canine DNA. So at this point, I don't know what expert they're going to come up that's going to be like, there's dog bites to me with no proceeding of the body based on photographs and no DNA. Like, okay, I mean, you might as well call it UFO markings, like an alien came up and did it. You know what I mean? Like we could say we can speculate it's anything. Most likely it was a result of being hit by a car and being dragged or being like, that's the only thing I can think of. But yeah.
Where is the car? Because the damage is weird on the car.
A lot of things are weird in this situation.
It's right there. It's at the first of my video. But like, I think she hit him just. Even if you see when Vinny points out where he was laying, and then where the fire hydrant is.
Yeah. Also, yeah.
He was hit at the fire hydrant. That's where.
Yeah.
And then went. I thought back, but it's kind of sideways.
Yeah. And by the way, like Karen Reed has shown to be a liar. She lied about not drinking. She lied to the EMT people about not drinking, I believe.
Yeah.
Like, and then turns out, I think they did the blood alcohol test. She had 0.08 in her system. Like, that means you drank something, ma'am. That means you drank alcohol. Okay? You lied to the people there. You lied multiple times. What is the truth? You changed your story multiple times. You talk about like, well, this EMT said it was a jacket when it was really a hoodie with a zipper. And it's like, this lady changed her fucking alibi 3 times. So, I mean, are we going to go? If you're guilty over that, being part of the conspiracy, I'd like to know what type of guilt Karen Reed has for changing her story multiple times.
Yeah, she starts out with, I don't even remember going to your house.
Yeah, that was the first one.
Right.
Also, the medical examiner wouldn't say 100% it was a car, but what she did say 100% he wasn't in a fight. Yeah, I mean, there's no indication of a fight. Now, that's the thing. I think those marks are from the fire hydrant he might have been hydrant or extinguisher. His arm being pushed against it, possibly. It has these knobs that stick out and send become okay.
Well, am I the only one that got the visiting the house?
Well, I mean, like a lot of people have speculated that she visited because John's car. Someone sent me a photo, and it's like, this is speculation. This is the speculation part.
No, I'm talking about today.
No, I don't think anyone talked about John, the car reverse, like with
they
Lucky.
Visited here. It might be.
Oh yeah, they visited the scene
Okay,
and the car. Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, they did that.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I seen the car.
Oh my God! I just asked you.
Well, I misheard. I thought you meant something else.
No. Yeah, because hold on. I want to see what you think of this. Here we go.
At the time of the testing, it was 0.08, and they estimated, I think it was, let me just get the exact number, but they estimated that her alcohol level at the time was, I think, let me see.
Yeah, I just don't know how they're going to use that because she could have drank when she got home too, you know.
They estimated, okay, let me see. They estimated it was either 0.13 to 0.29 at the night before.
The fire extinguisher. What fire extinguisher?
The fire hydrant, she probably meant.
Oh, hydrant. Okay, well, look at the car.
Yes.
Here we go.
Here
Can
we
you see
go.
it?
Yes, I see it.
Okay.
I know, right?
And who is doing this?
An
Grant?
idiot.
I knew for sure. It's a cool house.
Imagine you're the new homeowners and you fucking got to deal with this bullshit. Oh my God.
I know.
That must suck.
Cedar Crest? Why does that say Cedar Crest? Okay. Could you move, please? Move.
Sorry, Zip.
Okay. So there's that. I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know where the dent is. And look right there. Like where's
Yes.
that? Okay, this is where the glass would have been, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And see this?
Yeah, that's a dent.
No. To me, it's like something hit it.
Yes, a body.
Not a well. Would the body make scratches on it? The glass would. This is where his glass was.
Yeah, the glass was there.
So I'm thinking, I just think the glass hit it. Like he was holding it or turning around or.
Yeah, I can't speculate on that. I don't know.
Why? I don't understand why they parked. See, look, Nagel could not see through that.
No.
He got here.
Like, imagine it's that pitch dark at night and you're driving by and we can't even see inside of it with in daylight and it's sunny.
So his shoe was in this area and his body was over here. That's a flagpole. So it would be over here. And there were bushes here before.
Yeah.
And they say 8 to 20 feet. So
yeah, that looks like 8 to 20 feet. Yeah, okay.
Pick one, okay? But when we measured it on Queen, it was like.
So that flag is probably like the location of the.
Well, it was this way. Vinny stood right here the other day, like right here.
That's a little bit closer. Yeah.
So 8 feet would be what, right here. But it's
you know what? I wish like they would show up at nighttime and do this. You know what I mean? I feel like it's just like a misrepresentation of the conditions. Like you go in daytime, yeah, and there's no snow. You're like, oh well, of course you can't see. Of course you could see someone there, but it's snowing in nighttime.
Okay. Maybe that is someone who shouldn't be out there. Okay. God.
Look at the knobs. I think that's what scraped his arm. They are rounded, so it could have cut his skin. It could be blunt force trauma. Yeah.
Well, they said blunt force. They didn't say. It's like something hit it and made those.
Yeah.
Marks. So they show the inside of her car. I guess they took that informatic from the dash.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
This is horrible. This cameraman's making me drunk.
I know.
It's like between the lip sucking and this guy, this is gonna be a bad day for my fucking headache today.
That is probably where the infotainment or whatever it's called was.
Oh shit.
Curious.
So when he passed, her hands were right here. The dome light was on. And if John was standing outside, he wouldn't have seen him.
No, he wouldn't.
Yeah, probably where all that stuff was. Anyway, so it's over with for today.
Yep. Good talk to you. Have a good one.
Good talking to you.
Have a good one. Bye.
Come and watch Crimes of Fashion tonight.
I will. All right. I'll see you guys.
See you later. Bye. Okay, guys. Thanks for coming by. See you. No, it'll be Monday or tonight. Join us tonight. Bye-bye.
Police officer woman is now facing manslaughter charges. 41-year-old Karen Reed is also accused of motor vehicle homicide and leaving the scene of a deadly collision in Officer John O'Keefe's death. His body was found early Saturday morning in a residential neighborhood in Canton. I-Team sources saying the two had been in a relationship and that investigators have video from a Ring doorbell camera and they've impounded the suspect's car. John O'Keefe was a 16-year veteran.
Did you hear it again? Investigators have video from a Ring doorbell camera and have impounded her car. That's what you were told. Boston, that's what you were told. Gonna take it back again.
O'Keefe was a 16.
Take a look at this video from the doorbell cam. It was taken at 5:03 a.m. And 5:03 a.m. is hours after Reed and O'Keefe parted ways.